Alright, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Cost of Hope. This is the first paid expansion for a game that launched on a 73, and one outlet gave that launch a 40 out of 100 and said it could be a great game in a few years. Well, it's a few years later. The expansion is sitting on an 85. That's a DLC scoring 12 points higher than the game it's attached to, and that almost never happens. But there is something inside that number that nobody is saying out loud, and once you see it, you'll weigh the score differently. So, what the reviews found, where the numbers are thinner than they look, what the free update does that the paid one doesn't, and where I land. And one of those four is going to save you $30, so stay for it. Cost of Hope is from GSC Game World. $30, PC and consoles, single player, and it needs the base game. The setup is the oldest argument in the zone. Something has appeared, and the two big factions can't agree what to do about it. Duty, one of the zone's oldest factions, sees it as a threat that must be contained and ultimately destroyed. Freedom believes it's a gift. You're Skiff again, pulled in by a signal on your PDA, and the choice you make at the end sends the story to one of two different endings. Two new areas come with it. The Iron Forest, described as maze-like paths and plenty of uncharted locations, and the Chornobyl Nuclear Power Plant itself. One review also names a third, the Lost City of Luhansk, which the others don't mention, so treat that as a maybe. You can start it straight from the main menu, or run into it naturally in the middle of a full playthrough. It begins at the slag heap, with Skiff heading for the Iron Forest, and there's more than one way in. If you already own the Ultimate Edition, you have it. Everyone else pays the $30. And it arrives alongside a free update called Back to the Zone. Hold on to that, because it turns out to be the bigger story. Now the number, because it really is unusual. On Metacritic, the base game finished on 73. The expansion is on 85. On OpenCritic, the base game sits at 75, with 65% of critics recommending it. The expansion is at 87, with 90% recommending, and it holds the site's top tier, Mighty. 12 points is a lot. Games don't usually improve by 12 points in a DLC. That's the kind of jump you see when a studio spends 2 years fixing what everyone complained about and then ships the thing it wanted to make in the first place. The comparison that came up most is the one you're already thinking of. Over at day one, the line was that this brings a cyberpunk Phantom Liberty style improvement to the game, and that S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 finally feels like a complete game. The framing at DualShockers went further. Cost of Hope and the 2.0 update are S.T.A.L.K.E.R at its finest, and the question of which S.T.A.L.K.E.R game is the best is now purely a matter of taste. For a series where people have been arguing about that since 2007, that is not a small thing to say. Here's the catch, and it's the most useful thing in this video. That 85 is built on 13 reviews. 13. And not one of them is from a first-tier English language outlet. No PC Gamer, no IGN, no GameSpot, no Eurogamer, no Rock Paper Shotgun. The list is mid-sized sites and European outlets writing in Italian, Turkish, Portuguese, Spanish and Slovak. That doesn't make the score wrong. Those reviewers played it, and the ones I read are specific and fair. They name what's weak as readily as what works. But put 13 in perspective. The base game was reviewed by more than 130 critics. This expansion has a tenth of that, and a score built on 13 moves a long way when the next 10 arrive. One more detail worth having. The lowest score in the set is a 70, and it's from IGN Germany, which is IGN's German licensee, not the IGN most people mean. That single review is the only thing keeping the average out of the high 80s. So how did a game that shipped at a 40 end up here? The launch, in November 2024, was a mess, and everybody said so. The verdict at VGC was that it could be a great game in a few years, but what's presented at launch is a technical mess that doesn't capitalise on its best ideas. Even the positive reviews carried it. An 83 at PC Gamer came with errors, crashes, progress halting bugs, and at times hilarious glitches in animation and AI. 4 in 10 PC reviews landed in the mixed column. Not negative, mixed. That's a game people wanted to love and couldn't quite. Then GSC did the thing almost nobody does. 7 major patches. A-Life rebuilt so factions and mutants fight over territory whether you're there or not. A new hub. A new difficulty tier. It was named Most Improved Game of 2025 at Shack News. Today, the base game sits at mostly positive on Steam, around 80% of more than 135,000 reviews. Filter to people who bought it on Steam rather than a key site, and it reads very positive. Which brings me to the part that isn't the DLC at all. Update 2.0 is free. It's 130 gigabytes, and the studio calls it the biggest overhaul to how the zone looks, feels and lives since launch. A collection of years worth of player feedback, in their words. The engine moved to a newer build of Unreal 5, which means real shadows and reflections indoors and underground, not just outside. A-Life got another pass, so campfires and bus stops become contested when stalkers and mutants cross paths. 4 new weapons, binoculars in 3 types, custom rules so you can tune difficulty piece by piece instead of picking a preset, and the one that actually changes how you play, fog. Not weather, the studio is explicit, it is a gameplay mechanic, and both stalkers and their enemies have reduced visibility and hearing. That's the sentence that made me pay attention. Fog that blinds the AI as much as it blinds you is a different game, not a nicer looking one. 2 things before the verdict, and both are things you'd rather know now. First, the length doesn't match the marketing. The press release promises a massive non-linear expansion offering dozens of hours of gameplay. Every reviewer who actually finished it reported something else. 15 hours, 15 hours, 21 hours, 10 to 15. Nobody came back with dozens. Second, the launch has a real bug. There's a mounting error that stops the DLC initializing for some people, plus crashes, and the Steam rating spent its first day sitting in mixed before climbing out. Although the players are taking it about as well as you'd expect from this series. One review, thumbs up, reads, "Game crashed within 90 seconds of me exploring the Iron Forest. 10 out of 10, authentic stalker experience." So, is Cost of Hope worth it? Here's where I land, and it splits in 2. The free update is not optional. Install it whether or not you buy anything. It is the biggest change this game has had since it came out, it costs nothing, and if you bounced off S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 in 2024, this is the reason to come back, not the expansion. The expansion itself, buy it if the zone already has you. It is the best reviewed S.T.A.L.K.E.R content in years, and the people who played it are close to unanimous that it's better than the base campaign. But be honest about the price. $30 for 15 to 20 hours is not the bargain the phrase dozens of hours implies, and the reviewer who gave it a 9 out of 10 still said to wait for a sale unless you're a dedicated fan. When someone scores something that highly and then tells you to wait, that's worth more than the score. So it comes down to this. Update first, today, free. Expansion when the mounting bug is patched and you've decided the zone is where you want to spend 20 hours. Links below. If you were one of the people who refunded this in 2024, is 2.0 enough to bring you back? Because that's the question this whole release is really asking.